We've gone so far from the starting point. And here we are on Open Forum with Citizen MKO on Memories 96.5 FM, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. And we are broadcasting on right now. You can watch us live on Open Forum with Citizen MKO on Facebook, as well as Memories 965 FM on Facebook. Straight to our food for thought and thought for food for the week. And it says, greatness lies not in being strong, but in the use of strength. Henry Ward Beecher. Greatness lies not in being strong, but in the use of strength. You find some persons, they say they are great, all they have is money. Say they are great, all they have is political power. And what do they do with it? Oppress, victimize, loot, and behave as if everything begins and ends with mundane things. Today, we are blessed to have two very senior citizens who have made a name for themselves in their various fields of endeavors. And we are so honored that we are able to have two of them. I would say it's an accident. Last week, we started conversation where we had Professor Bishop Ahaziah Omana, who is the chairman and CEO of Redemption 101.5 FM Abak. He's a Christian leader and author, an agriculturist, professor of broadcasting and international relations. And we could not conclude our conversation, and so we decided to move it till today to conclude. And we shall do that. We're just concluding on a particular subject matter because there are too many things. The man is a bundle, not just a bundle of wisdom and ideas, but it's everything a country and a state would look out for. Today, we are blessed to have him. We're going to let him just say hi to us later.
Thank you. Good morning and God bless you.
Please, the camera must speak. Technical man, you have to be very alert today. Prof,
yes.
Address the, you are now live.
Thank you. Good morning and God bless you.
Amen. I was privileged some years ago. The man I used to hear about, and I used to wonder what he actually looked like. I was privileged because of the kind of service that we render. Something took me to where was said to be his residence. And when I came face to face with him, the kind of reception and the aura around him, I couldn't imagine that this is the man that was, and is still, one of the best things to happen to the aviation and airline business in Nigeria and beyond. He's none other than Captain Augustine Okun. He is the CEO of ADC Airlines, founder and CEO of Fresh Airlines. Some are hearing that for the first time. And then the CEO of Fresh and Green Limited. And the letters that has even made me to say, we need to talk, I need to have you on air, has to do with the fact that he is the chairman of Maurice Asukwo Foundation. You're welcome to Open Forum with Citizen MKO, Captain Augustine Okun.
Thank you very much, MKO. Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you.
You told me you don't like titles. I would have added...
No, Augustine Okun is just good.
Imagine that. We are blessed today, like I've said. As usual, on the program, we have various segments, but today we have removed humanitarian intervention so that we can have some ample time to be able to get some issues addressed by these amazing patriots. We have state of the state and state of the country. We will not fail to take that because it's part of the conversation that they may chip in something. And one of them has to do with the happy hour, which has finally been flagged off and rebranded by His Excellency Governor Duneman, His Excellency Dr. Pastor Umar Basi Eno. We're going to talk about that. And then there's a report of the House of Representatives Committee on a review of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having to do with state creations. And then we are hearing some are saying, oh, there are 30 states demand. Mostly people are saying 31 states. We're going to know the truth about that, and maybe they also chip in what they have to. But the main issue on the front burner has to do with the series we are running. And this is the 16th edition that Open Forum is trying to see how we can bring ideas from subject matter experts and patriots to see how we do the stock taking and agenda setting for an Akwa Ibom without oil. Like Professor Isaiah Omana would say, Akwa Ibom without crude oil, because we have other forms of oil. So today we are going to look at harnessing palm produce, blue economy, airline and aviation businesses to boost our IGR. Those are the things that we are going to look at. But as usual, though I won't spend too much time on that, is the fact that we normally review what we did the previous week, which was on the 3rd, when we hosted Professor Isaiah Omana and Dr. Ubum from Vienna. He spoke to us from Vienna. And these are some of the things that we arrived at. It's very important, because we don't just do a program and that ends there, because we must follow up. We advocate that the love for Nigeria should make every citizen contribute historical and contemporary ideas on how to make the country better. That was the advocacy put out by Professor Isaiah Omana. And then jettisoning of secularism of Nigeria and expanding the establishment of Sharia court for Islamic adherents from northern states to the southern is inimical to the peaceful coexistence of the country. That is because Western states, we talk about Sharia courts, is very topical there now. And we also, Akwa Ibom State government should secure implementable health policy and effective use of Ibom Specialist Hospital and other medical facilities to drive medical tourism to the state and thereby improve the IGR. Dr. Ubum was very specific on this, because with medical tourism giving some countries billions of dollars, Akwa Ibom has whatever it takes, and we dealt with that. And very importantly to the issue that President Trump has suspended HIV and AIDS grants, which used to go through USAID, and then we may likely have prevalence of HIV and AIDS in the country because there are no funding, and we arrived at the resolution that there should be local funding, and then pharmaceutical companies should be established where these medical drugs could be manufactured for our use. And then for the Akwa Ibom State government that spent 502 billion in 3 months, ending the 2024 fiscal year, has raised some issues which we have appealed to His Excellency the Governor to address, so that the kind of goodwill he's enjoying will not be tempered because of misinformation and whatsoever else. And then the unprecedented endorsement of the Senate President by Governor of Akwa Ibom State for second term, we have raised the question, will the Senate President and the APC reciprocate? Those who are aware saw the video where His Excellency was saying that you cannot send another senator there. Will you be able to become a Senate President? And we must be able to protect our own. That is a very different thing. The PDP governor talking about an APC senator and Senate President. We are waiting, because so far some big wigs in APC are saying that they are going to take over Akwa Ibom State, while the governor is saying a Senate President must continue second term. Those are the issues we dealt with. And now for today, without wasting time, I want to welcome our guest once again, and we want to go to the state of the state and state of the country. Let charity begin at home, having to do with the happy hour. I must give this background. His Excellency said during the campaigns he was going to have every weekend, every Friday, happy hour where drinks will be subsidized. If a drink is sold for 200 naira, you just pay 50 naira and drink. But for us, for me as a person, I said that idea may never be implementable. And unfortunately, the aides to His Excellency could not think out anything to see how that can be rebranded. But Open Forum in October, we came up with this program, which is actually in support of the Arise Agenda, Happy Hour Initiative, and the renewed hope for Nigerians. That is what we call this program. If you look at our promo, you see it from day one. And we have other ideas we can use the happy hour to do. Because when oppressed people are attended to, that is their happy hour. But he went to Lagos for the This Day Award, and a comedian movie brought out that joke on the happy hour. And I'm glad it's not 2 weeks. His Excellency came and rebranded the happy hour. And 550 million naira was given as grant, as awards to certain groups of persons. And then the dancing and rejoicing and all of that. I will just want to throw it open to our very eminent guests to just share their thoughts on the rebranded happy hour, which may not be every week, but whenever it comes and however it comes. Let me start with Professor Isaiah Omana.
Thank you, sir.
Happy hour. What is your thoughts about happy hour?
What? Every dream starts with an idea, an implementable dream. The governor is the practitioner in the tourism
Hospitality industry.
Hospitality and tourism industry. So that background must have been
Influenced his...
developing in his mind, how can I use what I know
Yes.
to help the citizens? So he talked of the happy hour. I think happy hour is an idea that citizens can use, like you said,
Yes.
and create it in such a way that it becomes functional. Functional not only by government motivation,
Absolutely.
but by private citizens
Initiative.
taking that. If you're a hotelier, how do you induce people to come and drink?
Patronize you.
Yes. If you have a golf course, how do you get people to get to play? And even if they play for an hour or longer. If you have an airport, how do you get people to fly from wherever to Akwa Ibom airport so that they can now get into the countryside
Absolutely.
and enjoy themselves? If you go to a country like Italy, you find that, or Romania, you find tourists living with people. And because they live with people, they subvent the housing condition of those people.
That's right.
And they live in homes and rather than hotels.
Really?
Yes. And they pay the homeowners. So the idea can be put together. The idea that the governor brought about
Yes.
can be put together by citizens.
Let us do this. I want to read exactly what His Excellency said, and then I'll get to Captain Augustine Okun to share his thoughts. He's a global citizen by virtue of his kind of work as a pilot. His Excellency said, "We are gathered to empower and encourage small, medium-scale enterprises, ensuring they leverage the skills and creativity to stimulate economic growth and personal development. We are here to celebrate passion, excellence, and the spirit of healthy competition, whether through sports, service delivery, and entrepreneurship. Tonight, we are here to celebrate what happy hour represents. And what does that represent? Rewards for hard work, talent, creativity, and industry. When you put in the work, you should take time to celebrate your effort." Captain Augustine Okun, you have traveled all over the world repeatedly. What is your input on how happy hour can be celebrated beyond what Open Forum is doing, which will bring people who have been oppressed, will make their voices to be heard, and they are happy that, they have been heard because they were never heard. And Prof has just talked about private sector coming in to see what to do to attract people and making them happy for whatever period. It's not a matter of an hour, but a way of life. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I must say that I have not given this topic of happy hour a lot of thought, and but I work with local people now. I work in the village as a farmer, and when I see the level of poverty there, I actually may not my opinion here may not be very helpful.
Yeah.
Because the culture I meet in the village now is a little different from what it was when I was growing up as a child. You see, a whole lot of people are jobless. And young boys in the age of 30, age bracket of say 30, 20 through 30, 40, come to us and ask it. And I find that a little repulsive.
It is.
So making a contribution where I am required to give them a drink at even a subsidized rate is not going to be helpful to the happy hour.
We have taken the conversation away from the drink because, like we said, we never, from day one that statement was made, we know that when ideas come, they get refined. And unfortunately, the aides were not able to put ideas together. Say, Excellency, can we do it this way? That's why we thought of something. As we speak, Open Forum has a master plan that if we have, for instance, 25 million, we can affect over 20,000 persons with evidence. It's not in dream.
Now you're speaking.
Yes, that is our position.
What can we do?
Yes, that will sustainable.
Sustainable at the very local level.
Absolutely.
Where our youth will benefit from it. If you're speaking in that direction,
that is the direction.
Support. Because there is a whole lot of joblessness and aimlessness. We have to give the people hope. What is the hope of a young man in the village? The greatest hope he has is ambition.
Yeah.
He wants to own a motorcycle. That's his highest ambition.
It's true.
And carry a couple of little girls in the village at the back, and that to me is it's not a starter. We have to move them from that mindset to a mindset of productivity.
Absolutely.
Where they can work and be rewarded for what they do.
And from their labor, from
and get
services.
pride from the whatever contribution in terms of work. And move them away from an area of just receiving charity from well-meaning people or politicians or people who are aspiring to be personal assistant to this. No, we have to move away from there and say, if you're working in the farm and all this, if you are working and want to have a happy hour at the end of the farm working week, and we'll cook and we eat and enjoy the work we have done. That may be a way to start. But I
thank you. No, we've nailed it. And I just want to use this opportunity to reiterate what we have said in Open Forum. His Excellency has said what Happy Hour represents, and want to appeal to His Excellency again that there are so many people with grievances, with cases that they don't know how to get them solved. And one of the happiest hour will be if His Excellency could establish the Peace and Reconciliation Committee. Let people that have issues go there, put their problems across, and we'll get this resolved. They don't need money. And until that is done, it's not enough that we appear to be celebrating every day. I have a number of petitions. We can't even meet up the workload with Open Forum having to do with people who are crying. You may see them laugh here. The next moment they are crying because nobody is attending to their needs. We want to appeal to His Excellency. We like this rebranding, but it's not enough because it cannot be weekly, as was said. But we can make Happy Hour daily if we have institutions and we have the buy-in of citizens, like Prof and Captain has said, that will make these things sustainable. We want to rest that and then go to the next one so that we can go to the big talk for the day, having to do with the report of the House of Reps Committee on Constitutional Amendment. I want to give us this background. The state creation is in the front burner, or appears to be in the front burner now, not because it is a decision of the House of Reps or the National Assembly to create state. It's because there is a Constitution Amendment Committee, which they just made their report available. And that report does not translate to state creation. And as it concerns us in Akwa Ibom State, we want to say that the Obolo State demand from Akwa Ibom and Rivers State, and then some other states from Rivers who are looking for state to be created between Rivers and Akwa Ibom, has to do with the taking over of the coastal region to form what they may call, like some will say, Ijaw and all of that. That is not really correct. For us in Open Forum, having been part of this process, I was the secretary for the BB People's Position Paper in the 2022 confab, and we saw there were 4 demands for state creation. We had the state movement. They were the largest contingent. They were over 70% of the entire hall at Obiwali Hall in Abuja. In Rivers State. We had, I think, an Oil River State or Oil Atlantic State or whatever it was called from Rivers State. They were part of Akwa Ibom. We had Obolo State, which was Andoni, Western Obolo, up to Ibuno, up to Oron. We had Oro people who demanded for New Calabar State, 4 states from Akwa Ibom. But now they are talking about 1. But the bottom line is that it is not 31 because the House made an error in repeating Ibadan State twice. So it actually states 30 states being requested. That's not the issue. The issue now is, are we, or is state creation the national question we should be asking and looking for answers? I want to throw that. But Prof is a communication expert. Let me start with Prof.
Thank you. State creation, in the way they're talking about it, is not the way to help this country. First of all, let me make my opinion clear. The government we have, at least the central government of this country, is not interested in human development or national development. They are interested in creating dependencies so that Nigerians can be beggars and they will be easier to rule. And part of the fractionalism of Nigeria, rather than restructuring it, is to enhance those dependencies. The people will come and worship you.
But meanwhile, Prof, let me stay on you. Is it visible? No civilian or democratic dispensation has ever been able to create state. So, creation of state, for me, it's something that is just a distraction. So, we may not even take them seriously.
I'm not interested in state creation the way they're doing it. I am interested in this country being restructured so that each entity, federal entity or confederate entity, is viable enough to make its citizens happy, productive.
Captain Augustine Okun.
Well, we should ask ourselves the question, at what point in our political history were we considered a rich nation? You see, when you fractionize to a point that we are not viable, let's take Akwa Ibom State and Cross River State. When we were Cross River State, and even go a little further, when we were Southeastern State. Southeastern State and Cross River State, I would think, was the same in geographical entity, just a name change. That we were large enough to be economically viable. And I would prefer, if you ask me a question, should we split what was Cross River State into 2 or 3 or 4? I would rather we go back to the whole, because economically it will make more sense. We can produce food that will feed our people. We have a lot of land mass in the on the eastern side, that is the Calabar, Obuja, what is present Cross River axis. We have a lot of population in the Akwa Ibom axis and the blue economy that is attached to it. Sharing that amongst the people makes more sense than breaking it down to several unviable political entities that, like Prof says, become dependencies. Where are you going to get the money to make it work? How can they pay their bills? How can they pay their salaries?
I think
it's not going to be viable.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
Where are you going to get the money? Where we are getting. Impoverish the Niger Delta.
Yes.
Carry the money and share it. The wealth of nations, not nations. Now, you go to local government. They're talking about local government. Local government should have been and used to be responsibilities of states. Now you stay in the federal and create entities that are neither viable, nor contiguous, nor culturally.
Okay, let's do this. To add to what Captain Augustine Okun said, I remember Victor Ndomagba, I think he was the leader of the Senate. When this issue of state creation came up, he said states should be merged. So I want to agree with you. And then for those who are saying that, oh, landmass, or we want to have equal number of states like in the Southeast, Niger State is bigger than the entire Southeast put together. Niger State. So if you're looking at landmass or whatever, so should Niger State be divided to 7 states? Now, there are some clear cases of marginalization, which is what Open Forum has been advocating. We are an advocacy group, and thank God, Prof have been part of what we've been doing. He's even a member of the Eminent Citizens Advisory Council. A place like Eastern Obolo is in Akwa Ibom State. Ibono is in Akwa Ibom State. But the level of degradation, the level of abandonment that is there, it troubles. Same with in the local government area. Same with a clan called Ipanya. I think in Ibiono. I've not been there, but I'm going to go there. I've been to Ini. I've been to where when a bike comes on a road that leads to a community, a person that treks will have to enter the bush because the road will not contain 2 people, even if they are on foot. So we should be talking about development. We should be talking about making government productive. I want you to speak to it because the issue of state creation sounds insulting to people who know the problem and also have the solution. And we are dragged backwards. Any of you can take it, just maybe in 30 seconds, so that we move to the big talk.
Well, I don't think state creation is insulting. It arises out of a sense of deprivation.
Yeah.
I think when Captain Okun was talking, what used to be Calabar province in the colonial Calabar province was so concise and self-sufficient. You have everything from blue economy to crops production to fisheries to animal husbandry. Very rich. You go to Ogoja province. The colonial provinces were viable entities, were culturally contiguous entities. So instead of fractionalizing, bringing all these things, sentiments, so that people can dismember themselves, both physically and spiritually, I think it's wrong.
Absolutely.
I think there are people who are angry or be marginalized in the present political groupings. What we should be looking at, how can we assuage their fears, bring them in, have an inclusive society that nobody feels oppressed, nobody feels cheated, and is making its contribution to the state or the present arrangement that we have. For as long as people are oppressed and feel that they have been deprived of their rights, you are going to see a whole lot of this type of agitation for their freedom when they have a state. But what they may not realize is that the future that they will be free, they will be on their own, but they may not be able to pay their bills.
And beyond that, minority issue will still crop up because within the minority, you still have the minorities who will be looking for what they call freedom.
And if you remember the Minority Commission that sat in Port Harcourt in 1957, the crux of what they said was that the problem of minority in Nigeria is not minorities itself, but the fears of minorities within minorities.
What a way to end it. Open Forum has been advocating that in Akwa Ibom State, no section will be looking for state creation if there is even development. We are oil producing. The area that has majority of the oil, there's no development there. I said that I've been to the palace of the paramount ruler of Eastern Obolo. The day I went to meet His Royal Majesty there, I was shocked at how he manages to navigate. Now, we have advocated and still advocating for the setting up of the Akwa Ibom Oil and Gas Mineral Producing Communities Commission. Akwa Ibom may likely be the only state in the South, and the Niger Delta doesn't have it. Let a portion of this derivation be put into development. You can't have an entire local government area with one primary school and one secondary school. No water to drink. So that is our advocacy that we've agreed that here we don't need state creations. We need the practice of federalism, which will address whatever called restructuring, devolution of powers, and all of that. And unfortunately, the vice president has said in a video which has not retracted that the talk is about restructuring, and instead restructuring my foot. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a pro-federalist person, pro-democracy activist. Now is the time to walk the talk. And if that is not done, it will be one of the greatest letdown in history. I'm sure he's going to do it, and we must encourage him to do it. Thank you so very much, my very esteemed senior citizens that are here. If you are just joining us, this is Open Forum with Citizen MKO. My name is Matthew Kofi O'Connor, and this is Open Forum with Citizen MKO. We are about people, issues, ideas, and solutions. And like we say, wherever this flag is flown, we take care of our own. We want to take care of how we are going to have money to be able to address our needs as a Akwa Ibom state if we have issues of derivation or FAC allocations or whatever. Today we are looking at the blue economy, palm produce, airline and aviation businesses. And let me go to a man that when he told me about how he started life, I was held spellbound. And people may not know that Professor Azai Omana is an agriculturist, even has a degree in agriculture. In a nutshell, Prof, tell us about your journey in the agricultural sector very briefly, and then I'll take you on the oil palm sector and what we can do. We are going to be very specific. We are going to hit nails on their head. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I finished secondary school in Holy Family in 1961.
Awesome. I wasn't born.
And I immediately got into the School of Agriculture, Umudike, as an agri assistant in training. 1962. In that 1962, after qualifying as an agri assistant, I was one of those that helped Malaysia to get palm seedlings from Ibesin and Benin. And you know now that Malaysia is the largest exporter of palm oil. And you see what they do with palm fronds and other things in terms of tourism industry. And Nigeria buys palm oil from Malaysia today. Now, if you see a person like me, I've been to Malaysia more than twice to see what they're doing with what they got from us.
How did you feel when you saw the difference between the giver and the taker?
You feel like an incompetent. You feel stupid. You know that you have people that have the resources. If you go to Benin and look at what it was, the Oil Palm Research Institute. It was the best in the world in the 60s. And you see the dilapidation.
Were they managed by the whites? Oh.
No, they were not managed by whites.
So what is wrong with us now?
We are deteriorating. We are not interested in national development. We are running away from development of, what should I call it? In nations to developing persons. We are a government of persons, not a government of institutions.
Now, let's do this, Prof. We need solution. We're about people, issues, ideas, and solutions. Akwa Ibom has some areas of comparative advantage in several ways. And one of them is still the oil palm sector. And then to nail it, remember Aqua Palm, where the World Bank came and invested, and it was one of the biggest places, one of the choice places for people to work and earn a living. And when they left, it became something else. It's been rebranded as Dakada Oil Palm, whatever, Limited. And then we also have the coconut plantation, the coconut refinery. We have the palm oil factory at the back. Looking at the fact that palm business in Akwa Ibom is not something we need pilot schemes to come and show us. And with the pains that you have, seeing Malaysia prosper with what you were part of those that handed over seedlings to them, what should we do now to harness the palm produce business for the state government to make earnings from there, not just from the Yakada oil palm sector, but generally across the state, because these things have been taken away every day by non-indigenous who are even giving some money to our people to even invest in that industry.
MKO, what we need to do is go back to oil palm rehabilitation. Now, sometimes when we talk history, it looks like we are looking backward. Palm Produce Board. Palm Produce Board was the institution that helped Eastern Nigeria to be the largest exporter of palm oil and palm kernel. Palm Produce Board. Now, Okpara came with a great revolution. And the revolution was to help extension workers go to help Nigerians to be self-sufficient in oil palm plantations. And people were investing in it. Now, I want to let you know that University of Nigeria, Nsukka, was built on product of Palm Produce Board. Palm Produce Board was established in Calabar because this area was the largest palm belt. Now, part of it, the compensation was to build an army barracks at Ibawa and a university at Nsukka. So we need to talk about substantive things. Our people have no idea of history, and that is why the military state history should not be taught in schools. So if we want to be self-sufficient, this is a palm belt, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, part of Obuja. This is palm belt. So if we plant oil palm, if we plant raffia palms, if we do this, now raffia palm, remember, is what the colonialists used to make gunpowder.
Interesting.
Yes, they were exporting that thing from us. Now we don't have raffia palm again.
Okay, Prof, let's do this. I want to stay with you before I go to Captain. Now, we have the coconut plantation, which is said to have been 11,000 hectares and about 2 million seedlings or so planted, which, according to the former governor, Mbiam, did not allow it to yield, and the factory has been there, not used. I heard His Excellency then, former Governor Dio Emmanuel, say that that factory, that refinery, can refine palm kernel without changing a pan, with the non-availability of coconut to crush, which we need about 300,000 to 1 million nuts every day. Can we recommend to government that the coconut refinery in Padenin should be converted to be used as a palm produce refinery where we can stop all this movement, shipment of palm produce elsewhere, and we don't have any returns?
What I can say is that what can be done to help us turn our wealth into both domestic wealth and exported goods,
okay,
to bring about sufficiencies for our citizens. We have a palm, palm produce company in Nabak.
Yeah, palm
meal industry is supposed to produce soaps, palm kernel oil, turn the palm kernel chaff into poultry feeds, mix it after you finish grinding this thing. So there were multi-purpose lines, and they were running. They used hexane in producing this thing, but after some time, the hexane was sold and the money used for politics.
Okay, now speak to the.
So the palm, the oil palm.
Yes.
I mean the coconut. I've not been there. I don't know how it can be converted.
The governor said so. I heard former governor say so.
If it can be converted, there is nothing wrong with having multiple industries that would help employ citizens of this state and generate wealth for the state.
Captain Augustine Okun, you are a farmer and you are here and there meeting the real people, and you've seen the challenges in the sector. We want to solve problems. Our people hardly want to invest in agriculture. Most of them are into hotel and building mansions and all of that. What would be your recommendation based on what Prof has said? What should the government and the organized private sector do now to help Akwa Ibom State tap from the palm belt that we are, instead of felling them down and planting something that will never yield.
Okay. I think, and I want to say categorically, we have enough production capacity in Akwa Ibom. Some private, some government, and they can be rehabilitated very quickly. What we don't have is that we do not have enough raw material to feed any one of these in a sustainable manner.
That's right.
And so our first call of duty is bring enough raw material to make any of those factories viable. Even if we convert it, and I'm not going to talk about conversion because I do not know what the technical implications will be converting something that was meant for coconut into palm oil.
I was quoting the governor, the former governor.
Okay. So, but what we need to do is have enough
Raw
materials, enough fruits, palm fruits, to feed the factory. And how do we get it? We must plant. We don't have. When I was growing up, if you looked out on the horizon, all you see is palm. If you stand out here and look, you don't see. You may see a few, but those few that you see are so tall. They are 40 years old, and those
Some 100.
That's
don't have
rehabilitation.
enough capacity to plant them or to harvest them. So we have to plant new ones. And what is the formula? If I were governor or if I were in a position,
Yes.
I would say first formula is give every Akwa Ibom person a stand of new palm tree.
Palm tree.
So if we are
Palm seed,
1
yeah.
million people in Akwa Ibom,
Yes.
plant 1 million
Palm seed.
palm seed, so that you can say, this is for you. This is for you, my daughter. This is for you, my son. If we are 10 million people, plant 10 million so that one person will have one. That is as a starting point. Then let's go
Yes.
to the next year and we plant some more. Then we have 2 million. Then we have 10 million. And that is how we can have enough raw materials to feed the factories. I've some years ago, in fact, not too long ago, I think within 5 years ago, I visited Air Marshal Sika Red Works factory in his village in Ibesigo. I was amazed at the capacity that he had there as a private citizen.
Yeah.
His complaint was he didn't have enough raw materials to use. So the factory at best was working only maybe one day in a week.
Imagine that.
And going all the way to Abia State, to Imo State, Cross River to get materials to feed the factory. So we must plant. That is the starting point. It's only after we've had excess, we can't even have excess. Then we feed one factory. I've talked about the one in Emasha Lagos place. I'm not sure the state now that is late, but Prof has also talked about the one in Abak. I think all the problems that we have is that there is not enough to feed any of those factories. And if we have enough raw materials, the factories will become viable.
You have given the solution. We hear when we heard about desertification, we thought it was that time that I think during Shagari and thereafter tree planting 2 million trees and all of that. In Akwa Ibom State, the advocacy that has been dropped right here, which I'm sure Prof has agreed, is that we should make palm plantation a scheme by government and by individuals to see that we can set a target that this year we need to plant 1 million palm trees, seedlings. We need to have that target to be able to meet up and see how we can harness the billions that have been put into the coconut refinery, which is still an issue. I don't want to go to what we did from the flag off, and I think that is a very better way to leave it. Let's just still on agriculture. Let me stay with you still. When I talked with you, you were more passionate about blue economy more than even the airline business we must touch a little bit. Tell us what can be done to harness the potential in the waters that Akwa Ibom State has more enormously than a number of places.
There, I just talked about raw materials. We have excess. Now, that is where we can bring in something to now create production.
Does Akwa Ibom State have a fishing trawler? Or do Akwa Ibom people have fishing
I
trawlers?
mean, the raw materials that we have, the shrimps, we have the
we have them.
water, we have the fish. So those are raw materials that we have. Now we can then look at taking the raw materials and creating a production. I'm saying now you can set up something because there you are assured you already have raw materials.
But are you aware that most of the fishermen are working for people from outside the state to buy them the nets and others that people hardly have investment there. They're just working for people outside the state. Are you aware of that, sir?
I am very much aware of that.
So what will you recommend to governments and to investors?
Empower people. And let me just say, empower people who are willing and able to work. If somebody is lazing around and is not ready to, he was waiting for government to give him money to marry another wife or to buy another motorcycle, or that shouldn't work. We shouldn't encourage that. But if there's a group of people who come to form a cooperative in the interest of their community, and they want a boat and they want something in a structured fashion, government should help them and must help them, because that way they can be made to enjoy what God has given them. I like to, before you go to, I like to remember my grandfather. He benefited from the blue economy. He used to float timber from Tiko Buya to the beach at Ipa.
Interesting.
And they would fish, but the timber will arrive, and there was a timber market at Ipa and in Fiayon, which you can still see some of the warehouses there.
Yes.
That was exploiting the part of the blue economy. And if you go around the back of Fiayon, there's a forest, or a beach, swampland. It was called Akpa Mfrukum. It's still called Akpa Mfrukum.
Yes, I've heard that.
Akpa is the ocean, the water, and Mfrukum is the cotton tree.
Yeah, the folds from the.
Yeah. They are big trees, massive trees.
Yes.
Today, you will see the Akpa, but you will not see the Mfrukum, because the Mfrukum is gone. We have failed all the trees.
The Mfrukum is gone. The Mfrukum.
Yeah, and then I have a farm at Biaya. There is no tree. You cannot find a tree in my village that is up to maybe 50 or even 30 feet tall. Okay. It's been cut down for firewood. Because there's we have to, it's very, very pathetic.
We are in trouble.
That we are in deep, deep trouble, and we have to realize
let's go. Just say his thought in 30 seconds about the blue economy.
Yeah, I don't want to call it blue economy. I just want to call it aquaculture.
Aquaculture.
Yes. Because we are very good with minting words and doing nothing. Akwa Ibom, like Augustine Akona said, we have fish. We have crayfish. We have crabs. We have frogs. We have lobster. We have snails. We have shrimps. Now, why do we complain about people coming from somewhere else
to come and tap
to fish when we are not prepared to fish? When I helped establish University of Cross River State, I was the one responsible for, I said it should be a non-resident university. And it was agreed. I was the one running around all of Uyo, Orani, Korekbena, but
what were you looking for?
Buildings, houses for the students that would live. And you know the excuses I had? Igbos have taken over all the buildings. But the buildings were built by Libyans. So why are we always having cognitive dissonance? Why is it that we cannot wear shoes because of cons? And we have no cons on our legs? It's only that we cannot afford money to buy the shoes.
Let us leave it there. We have nailed everything. Callers may not be able to call in because this is loaded, but I normally once in a while give a dedicated program where callers can call in. We cannot leave without Captain Okun addressing just whatever point he wants to address as brief as possible. You are both in the aviation and the airline sectors. Akwa Ibom has aviation business and there's also an airline business. with your expertise, I don't want to go to the history. Some other day will have you. Now, what role have you played in any or both of these businesses that are Akwa Ibom State? Float, aviation, and the airline business. What role have you played?
Well, you will realize that aviation is my passion.
That's right.
One of the thing that I know how to do is that I train for is in the aviation sector. I'm a pilot. I know how to fly aeroplanes. That's one thing I can say I know how to do. And I've been involved in a lot of training of pilots in the country. I established one of the early airlines, ADC Airlines, and we did a lot of training. We involved a lot of people from Akwa Ibom origin, and created a vision for them that it is possible, it can be done, and we did it. And I'm proud of what we did in the aviation sector.
Absolutely.
We set up a pace that is still remembered up till today. So in the aviation sector, I've made a contribution towards manpower development, towards actually running an airline, because we thought that it was believed that it was not possible to run an airline.
Specifically because of time factor. I know, like I promised, somebody will bring it just to talk about airline business, but looking at Victor Ota International Airport and the MRO and every other facilities having to do with aviation, what role have you played there? Looking at the airline business, have the state consulted you? Have the state invited you to be part of anything going on? Because we can't have people like you and then you are not part of what is really happening. I have my reason for asking this, because someday we'll bring you to talk about more deeper things. Yes, sir.
I have been involved in the airline, in the development. I was definitely consulted, and even when I was not asked, I did put my head there at the location of the airport.
Okay.
And so in mapping out the airport site, in present location of the airport, I was deeply involved. So
after that, nothing.
After that, you can also imagine that.
Okay.
I'm a senior citizen.
Let us leave it there.
Yes.
But in 10 seconds, is it possible for Akwa Ibom State to make enough money from aviation and airline business? Is it possible? Making money that we can see in our IGR. Is that possible?
Over what period of time?
The
time frame is important.
Yes, the time frame is important, but is it possible
in a long run? It is possible. But if you want results and that you must make profit today, tomorrow, then that may not be realistic.
This conversation will continue. I want to thank our senior citizens who have obliged us their amazing time and wealth of experience